For further analysis, we're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram Weekly managing editor, Mr. Khalid Dawood. Good evening to you, Mr. Khalid. And let me start by asking you the significance of Egypt's outright rejection of any renewed military occupation of Gaza.
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's a very important stand to be declared at this point following the decision by the Israeli cabinet to control, they didn't call it occupation, but to control the entire Gaza Strip, despite the fact that they have already control of 80%. But as we have read the reports coming out from Israel, the Israeli plan includes another threat of committing a war crime of mass deportation of more than 1 million Palestinians who are living in Gaza City and pushing them towards the center of Gaza, where they are going to be planning to build some more camps and forced displacement again for those Palestinians who have been repeatedly displaced over the past 2 years. So again, it's a very important message and a very important meeting between Egypt and Turkey at this point in order to confirm their firm rejection of this Israeli plan and warning of the consequences. And it was very important to hear from the Egyptian foreign minister, the Turkish foreign minister, that Egypt, Turkey, together with Qatar, they are going to exert all possible pressure to prevent the implementation of this the Israeli plan, which basically going to restart the massive killing of Palestinians in Gaza, even though the killing has not actually stopped, since the ceasefire was broken. But again, to speak about the forced the displacement of more than 1 million Palestinians is basically a disaster that the entire world should firmly stand against.
Now, from your point of view, what impact could the coordinated Egyptian-Turkish stance on Gaza have on ceasefire negotiations?
Well, I think, to be honest, that the Egyptian stand is definitely the most important on this level, because at the end of the day, we are the ones who are bordering the Gaza Strip. And I think it's very important to recall the recent statements that were made by President Sisi while he was meeting with the president of Vietnam, because it was very clear that the issue is not just killing for the sake of killing or depriving the Palestinians from humanitarian aid just to starve them. The basic goal is to force the Palestinians to leave their territories and head towards Egypt, Sinai, which is, again, Egypt has repeatedly stated that this is a national security matter that it will never allow. Turkey maintains a very important relation with U.S. President Donald Trump. There is a very close relation between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and U.S. President Donald Trump. So, on that side, the Turks could definitely put some pressure on the American president and explain to him the dangerous situation we are facing right now, and that it's basically ununderstandable that at one point we're speaking about a temporary ceasefire to release some of the hostages or half of the living hostages at least. And right now we are speaking about committing major massacres against the Palestinians and displacing them again and again, which is basically going to throw us back many months back. And at the same time, it's going to be very heavy casualty for the Palestinians. And according to the Israeli military itself, it's impossible to implement this plan without endangering the lives of the Israeli hostages that are being held by Hamas. So, I guess there are some commentators and observers who believe that the Israelis are basically putting pressure on Hamas to give in some compromises in the negotiations over the release of hostages, especially that this plan to occupy entirely the Gaza City is not going to be implemented immediately, according to the Israeli media reports. The Israelis, they said that they will not start carrying out this plan until they prepare some camp or tent city for the Palestinians expected to be forcibly evacuated from Gaza, and that this is going to take some time. So, that's why it's very important to make use of this period of time before the Israelis carry out the threats in order to force them to refrain from taking such irresponsible and disastrous.
Mm-hmm. But now we're speaking about Egypt as a regional power, and Turkey with its weight and, as you said, respectively, its relations with the United States, plus Turkey as a NATO member. And how do you think Israel would respond to both Egypt, with its weight, regional weight, and Turkey, when they are having a kind of joint condemnation of its expansionist policies?
Again, Egypt, we have a peace treaty with Israel, and any attempt by the Israelis to force the Palestinians out of their territories in Gaza towards the border with Egypt, and expecting them that they're going to be able to withstand such horrible conditions in Gaza will represent a major threat to Egypt's security. And it's going to be a major violation of the Camp David agreements between Egypt and Israel. Already Israel is violating this agreement by placing its troops in Rafah along the border with Egypt, because those borders should not have any Israeli troops present. But again, this would be playing with fire, to be honest, if the Israelis insist on carrying out this plan. And I'm sure the Israelis will put into consideration the Egyptian position along with other key major Arab countries such as Saudi Arabia, because again, replace the entire phase of negotiations that we've seen over the past year and open the door for unknown possibilities that are all basically disastrous for Palestinians, for Egypt, and for the entire region. And let's consider as well that it's not only Egypt and Turkey that issued strong condemnation of such Israeli cabinet decision, but almost the entire world. We've heard the German foreign minister the German prime minister basically announcing that they are going to stop any arms exports to Israel. We've already seen strong Britain, from France, from the European Union. So basically, it's the entire world against Israel right now, except for U.S. President Donald Trump, who gave Israel the green light and said that they are free to do whatever they want, and he won't interfere on that level. But I think, the importance of Egypt, Turkey, Qatar coordinating together is that they can deliver a clear message to the United States that this would place their own national security in danger. There are already reports that U.S. Middle East Peace Envoy Steve Witkoff is meeting today in Spain with the Qatari foreign minister. So I'm sure they are going to deliver this message. And again, let's hope that this is just a tactic that's being used by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, because to be honest, I really am not supposed to defend the Israeli position under any circumstances. But within Israel itself, there is fatigue within the army. The reservists, many reservists have been announcing they are not going to accept deployment to Gaza again. The plan is very costly, financially speaking, to reoccupy Gaza and to be responsible for nearly 2 million people, feeding them, providing them with services. So, probably there's going to be a lot of internal Israeli pressure at the same time in order to stop the Israeli Prime Minister from falling under the pressure of his extremist
Indeed, what you're saying is completely true, and there are so many reports of internal rifts, particularly among the governments led by Netanyahu and the chief of the army, the Israeli army, plus statements that came out of many of the former Israeli chiefs and officers are really not in favor of those plans to go inside Gaza. Indeed. Let me here ask you, to what extent can Egypt and Turkey cooperation sway international pressure on to halt occupation plans?
Well, let's, to be honest, admit that Israel already occupies Gaza. Occupying 80% and preventing the food from going into Gaza starting from March. We're talking about over 5 months. This sham about the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, that's basically a death trap for the Palestinians in order to get some food every day. An average of 50 to 80 people get killed there. So the situation is already disastrous. The aim should not just be to pressure Israel to stop this plan. The real pressure is to make Israel stop the entire war and withdraw its troops from Gaza and reach a permanent settlement with the Palestinians. through diplomatic negotiations, because again, let's not forget another dangerous aspect of the Israeli cabinet plan and the plans that were announced by Israeli Prime Minister that basically are illusions, such as handing over the responsibility for Gaza to Arab forces. I don't think there is a single Arab country that's going to accept to clean the Israeli mess or to be seen as cooperating with the Israeli occupation and fulfilling their demands.
Indeed.
There is something called the Palestinian Authority. This Palestinian Authority signed agreements with the Israeli side back in 1993, and the Palestinian Authority should be responsible for both the West Bank and Gaza and take the step towards the recognition, or at least start negotiations towards the recognition of a Palestinian state. I'm sure you've already been following these historic decisions by France, by Britain,
yes,
to recognize the
now Germany.
State. So this all should put pressure on Israel to recognize that it's turning into a pariah state that nobody wants to deal with at this current state.